Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and this is the operational report for the Ukrainian operations in the defense of their homeland against the Russian invaders. And so the Ukrainians continue their fight against the occupiers in Ukraine and along the front lines in Zaporizhzhia, so maybe another color, Zaporizhzhia, Donetsk, Sivers. This area is Bakhmut and Crimea, Svatove, and Kupiansk. So the battle still rages on in Ukraine, and the Ukrainian forces are making the main push mainly around Robotine. So this is the Orikhiv sector, and the Ukrainian forces are continuing their fight for the town of Robotine. If the Ukrainian forces continue to make their push towards this town, details are not so clear nowadays. We do not have any clearer information about whether the Ukrainians are attacking in this area or are they pushing this directly in the north of Robotine. We don't really have this information, despite I have been looking through all the information from different sources. Not so clear, and I'm not even sure if the Ukrainians would actually even continue to try this fighting on the eastern part of Robotine, which so far have not yielded much success. Even in pro-Ukrainian mapping, the Ukrainian forces continue to be holding this area here, at least capturing one full trench, and there is this entire gray zone that the Deep State UA actually drew, suggesting that the Russians are not there. This is take it for a pinch of salt. It's very hard to imagine that's the case, because the Russians are likely to return if the Ukrainians just leave it alone. So yeah, so that's the thing. The Russians did do some counter-offensive a little bit here and there, nothing very major, and the Ukrainians so far, even on the 3rd of August, continue to be sending reinforcement to the entire area around here, to Shovono, Kratnisia, Orikhiv, Malatomashka, Belokhoyaya, and it looks like this entire major grouping is likely to participate another major offensive around this area here. So far, we have not seen this major offensive just yet. The fighting is still mainly around in the Robotine region, and we did also see the Russians bombarded the Ukrainians in 3 different locations on the 5th, suggesting that Ukrainians may have gathered way too much forces around this area here that caused the Russians to actually shell them. So it looks like the Ukrainians are regrouping around the Orikhiv sector, and they are going to launch some major offensive in the coming days. I believe another major push for Robotine, perhaps, or perhaps they might actually go for Novoporovska or something. So far, Nesteryanka is basically somewhere they will never go, because they have tried many times, and before the Ukrainian offensive even began in late last year, everyone just dies going to Nesteryanka. So I suppose they will just focus on this salient that they have achieved, and continue to make this blind rush through all these defenses for some reason, which I'm not too sure why. Anyway, over at Kupiansk, the Ukrainians did seems to have entrenched themselves successfully in Pyatikaki. There is fighting reported in this area here, probably towards Zerevianka again, where the Russians are holding the positions, and it actually attracted Russian attack against Pyatikaki. So, which means the Ukrainians have successfully entrenched themselves here. But what are they going to do next is kind of unclear tentatively. And the other over this entire Zaporizhzhia front, the other part the Ukrainians are making a lot of concentrated effort is around Staromayorsk, Uruzhaine, and Priorne. The Ukrainian forces continue their offensive towards Uruzhaine, probably from the north, and also towards Staromayorsk, and to the west of Staromayorsk as well. However, the past day or so, past 2 days, it is the Russians that is on the offensive So the Ukrainians mainly are still focusing on Uruzhaine just yet. So the battle for Staromayorsky continues. Pro-Ukrainian sources basically list this place as entirely controlled by Ukraine. So I personally not too sure, to be honest, not too sure. As on the 3rd of August, it was reported that a reconnaissance unit was destroyed trying to cross the Mokryali River near Staromayorsky, which is unclear which part of the river did they try to cross. So anyway, this is this. And the Ukrainians also tried to resume the attack against Priyotny. So far, no clear success just yet. And the Ukrainians in Donetsk front has the most interesting progress. They managed to push south in the west and southwest of Voleda, and they managed to recapture some of these grounds here that the Russians have previously controlled just off Voleda. So the Russians got pushed back to Mikhailsky, and it was reported that the Ukrainians are shelling Polivka and Mikhailsky. It's unclear whether the Ukrainians will continue this offensive and roll this into big snowball to capture Polivka or Mikhailsky. Tentatively, this triangle of death of Voleda continues, and to reignite and burn again. Nothing much to talk about around Marinka and around this area south of Marinka. The Russian Defense Ministry did make a very interesting information calling that they repelled an attack near Paraskovievka, which is actually here. So yeah, so maybe some little push here, nothing major around this area here. There is, however, interesting information around Staromihailivka and Krasnohorivka. The Russian Defense Ministry has been reporting the Ukrainians are attacking Staromihailivka over the past few days, and this is interesting considering that this is heading towards Donetsk city, and we are not too sure what is the progress here. No one is actually reporting in details. However, we do have a neighboring Mikhailsky where the Ukrainians actually managed to capture some ground from previous positions around here. The Ukrainians managed to push and capture more ground and create more buffer zone around Mikhailsky and Nevelsky. And the Russians are slowly getting pushed back from this area here. So that's another success that the Ukrainians are having over these past few days. The Ukrainians seems to be continuing their Avdiivka offensive in a very limited sense. 5 days, the Ukrainian attacks reporting around the city of Avdiivka now and then, at Pervomaysky, Zhivany, sometimes eastern part of Avdiivka, sometimes Vasily, sometimes Krasnohorivka, and Krasnohorivka is here, but it doesn't look like the kind of major offensive that we are looking at Zaporizhzhia. Other side, over at the Bakhmut front, the focus purely is on the southern part, as I think they has given up the entire northern flank. Tentatively, they are not going to attack in the north at this moment. Maybe they don't have enough men. Maybe the defenses are too hard. Maybe they want to concentrate all their effort in the south. So maybe they have withdrawn all the assault forces and sent them south and concentrate in this offensive in the southern flank. And in this southern flank, even though they have kind of like maybe refocused their attention, the fighting for Klishchiivka has basically ground down to mostly positional warfare. And in fact, the Russians are reportedly doing counterattacks in this area here. And however, we did not see the same here in the further south. There is still some push for Andriivka and Kodyomivka, but we do see a lot more reports of Russian counteroffensive, which might suggest that the Ukrainians are getting more and more spent and or exhausted in the southern flank, and the Russians are slowly pushing back. And even Deep State UA, the pro-Ukrainian source, did mention that the front line is kind of very hard to fight for the Ukrainians. And Deep State UA is very pissed off with the analysts in the West, whatever that's supposed to mean, saying that they are undermining by belittling the difficulty of the front lines. So they reported that the Russians have sent in reinforcement, making progress really difficult for the Ukrainians right now. So Bakhmut front, the Bakhmut offensive might, not sure, but might be, grinding down to a halt as we speak. And the Ukrainians instead make their redivert. So because it's grinding so slowly, over the southern part of Bakhmut, they have instead make their attention towards the outer pincer. Their fighting is being reported at Sperne, at Berestove, and Bilohorivka. Almost on a daily basis, reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. And this looked like this one of the bigger arrow movement. If you can see, this is the bigger one that's heading towards Popasna, and or at least just off Popasna, so that they can actually join in with this southern flank pincer. And the pincer is unlikely to go for Popasna just yet, because the Russians do have this major defense line just off Popasna towards this river. This is the all this this pyramid looking anti-tank teeth, so it looks like teeth, mines and everything, anti-tank ditches, and the line looks something like this. So this is where the Russian defenses, the prepared lines are, just like in the Zaporizhzhia defense lines. And this entire area here is the unwanted areas that Wagner by force give it to the Russian Defense Ministry, and now it's their problem now. So no thanks to Wagner. Probably the way how the Russian Ministry of Defense is thinking is, so the Ukrainians are making this push to recapture all these grounds that the Wagner have made it so difficult for the for the Ukrainian side, and which the Russian Defense Ministry probably don't even want. So this battle will continue. So far, despite all these mentioned battles being fought in the civil front, I don't really see progress as per reported. It's always been reported by the Russian Defense Ministry as repelled, and when they do report about it, it does shows that maybe there's no success, because if there is Ukrainian success, the Russian Defense Ministry might just don't want to talk about it. And Ukrainians also continue their Crimea offensive at Torske, Dniprovo, and within the Serbianske forestry to try to push back the Russians' progress over at the Crimea front, where they previously attacked towards Torske, to the west of Dniprovo, and within the Serbianske forestry. So the Ukrainians are making active efforts to push back the Russians in this front line within the forest region. And nothing much to really talk about. There is rumors of Ukrainians recapturing this area here. This managed to push back the Russians here. However, this front line that is reported by Surya Maps had always been the mapping by Deep State UA. So I have no idea if there is actually any real progress per se. And the Ukrainians also are trying to counterattack in this salient just off Svatove front, in the southern part of Svatove front, where the Russian forces previously have this success in this area here, where the Russian forces captured Serhievka, and they are battling, holding a position at Nadia, and they were attacking towards Zdoliklibove, and sorry, this is a bit hard to pronounce, and of course this salient just west of Kamazanivka. This Ukrainians are currently holding this position right now, and of course there's some rumors of the recapture of this town called Novoyehorivka. However, there is no more fighting being reported around this front over here. After the Ukrainian supposed recapture of Novoyehorivka, the focus currently is now entirely around Kamazanivka. Fighting is being reported with the Ukrainians continue their push towards the west of Kamazanivka, and also reportedly at Novovodyan, sorry. So the Novovodyan attack seems to be trying to push to the rear to force a Russian withdrawal back into Kamazanivka. So far the battle is still ongoing. There's no clear information of any progress just yet. And this reminds me of the Ukrainians trying to attack Rakhorodka. However, this time around is from the north, and what we have now is actually from the south, attacking around Novovodian. So these both attempts are similar in the sense that they are trying to hit into the rear of the Russian salient that is being developed previously. This looks like yeah. Okay, moving on the northern part, the Ukrainians are currently trying to counter-attack the Russian forces around the Kazumivka or Novosibirsk region, because there is rumors of, or actually announcement by the Russian Defense Ministry of the capture of Novosibirsk. And this capturing of Novosibirsk is a massive setback if proven to be accurate from Ukrainian or pro-Ukrainian sources. And so far, the information we do get is that the Ukrainians are trying to counterattack Novosibirsk to negate this possible fall of Novosibirsk. And otherwise, the Ukrainians over the past few days had always been just defending and trying to hold back the Russian push. And over the Kupiansk front, the Ukrainians are facing the same problem over here. The Russians have restarted after a long rest for their Kupiansk offensive. Currently fighting is at Sinkiivka, south of Vyshana, towards Petropavlivka, and near Tokarivka, Peshotravneve, Timkovka, and this entire one major front push over this area here. The Ukrainians are trying to counterattack only in limited areas in the southwest of Liman Pershi at Sinkiivka, and over at the Timkovka, or not really Timkovka, this guy, Zagorukovka region, which is just west of Timkovka. Timkovka is here. This Timkovka, this is the area that the Ukrainians are trying to hold a position just off Peshotravneve. So this is the main operation over Kupiansk. The Ukrainians have previously reinforced this area here at Kupiansk and Petropavlivka, and these forces is probably now being set to do all this defensive operation against the Russian push. However, I suspect that some of these forces has been redirected southward towards this area here at Novosibirsk, and furthermore, there is also this further stress coming down at Kamazinivka, where they have to send forces from Borova to aid the front line over here. So the Ukrainian positions around here is extremely stressed. We can see that the major Russian push in this Kupiansk region, in the northern part of Svatove front and the southern part of Svatove front. So the Russians hit one after another. It seems like a left hook, right hook, left hook, right hook. Then suddenly there's a center punch. The Russians are doing this to to stretch the Ukrainian forces. So the Ukrainian forces currently trying to deal with this, and this might cause the Ukrainians will have to pull some forces from other fronts to try to do this. And I'm not sure if this has anything to do with the slowing down of the intensity over the southern part of Bakhmut. So the situation for the Ukrainian operations are very, very tough. The Ukrainians resorted in more drones attacks. There is drone attacks into cities, and there is an attack against drone attack in the latest information against Svadivske or Gavdivske. Sorry, lousy pronunciation. And there is also surface drone strike against Novorossiysk. Probably they attacked this base is because Sevastopol is too well defended now, and now the entire area around the Crimean bridge is now being blocked off. The surface drone cannot really enter now. They did try, but they did not work out. They got taken out by the defenses so far, and the one that they managed to kind of break through a little bit is around here. They managed to blow one of the drones against one of the ships, allegedly a landing ship tank, but the other two were destroyed. So not a lot of progress. The Ukrainians are also sending surveillance drones all around the Black Sea, particularly just off Istanbul, where this is where the area where the Russians vessels has been patrolling and getting hit by Ukrainian surface drone attacks. They did not hit the ships. They were attacking the ships, the Russian ships, but did not work out. Otherwise, oh yeah, there's another Ukrainian operation that I haven't mentioned. Is the Ukrainians have been sending a lot of this scouting and reconnaissance into all these islands along the Dnipro River. It's unclear what they are trying to do. This being reported, and it seems that the amount and intensity of it makes it very difficult for the Russians to keep up with. And there is also previous reports of the Ukrainian forces at the bridgehead at Dachi managed to push out a bit, but that's the end of the story. We never heard about it anymore, about this this thing here. So we shall see how this goes. Anyway, this is the operational report for the Ukrainian operation in the defense of Ukraine against the Russian offensive, or the Russian invasion into Ukraine. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next update.